I have put before each of you, and I submitted for my application to delegate this page, which you will probably see in front of you. The chart I have created represents a reproduction of my tax bills from 2018 through to 2022, which I have here with estimates for 2024 prepared. If you are not shocked by the vertiginous increase in the municipal component of the property taxes, presuming those are all presuming that's the same with all Burlington residents, then you are either willfully blind or don't know how to read data. The city's focus on, quote, overall tax impact from page 29 of the 2024 financial needs and multi-year forecast is a misleading attempt to obfuscate the issue, and that it does not provide insight into the municipal component of the increase, which my charts above clearly demonstrate, a real world impact on me and my family. The above tells me either one of two things are happening. One, a gross ineptitude on the part of the city budgeting officials to plan for future intended expenditures during the period of this mayor's incumbency. Or two, the city of Burlington's impecuniosity and profligate spending is run amok. I suspect it is a combination of both, but I'm leaning towards the latter as my analysis below will bear out. And there is little light at the end of this tunnel. City budget projections over a multi-year simulation forecast projected annual tax increases of 5.69% on average between 2024 and 2028. This data is taken directly from Appendix A to Report F3523. Based upon the actual real-world impact the recent 2022-2023 property tax increase had on my property tax bill, these projections shed a devastating light on what kind of impact this will have on those most vulnerable to property tax increases over the coming years, predominantly hitting seniors and low-income earners. Those on fixed incomes will soon be unable to afford this burden that will have been placed on them, and they will be put into a position of being forced to sell their homes, which in many cases they have lived in for decades in my part of the city at least. This has all been happening in the backdrop of an exceptionally uncertain economic time and increasing interest rate environment. The chances of a recession remain high for next year, and average mortgage rates have jumped from 2 to 6% over the last year and a half. The City of Burlington Food Bank Hunger Report indicates a 94% increase in food bank visits from 2019 through to 2022, which I'm sure this council was made aware of on Tuesday. This compares to an Ontario average of 45% and a Canadian average of 35%. Seniors alone have seen a 300% increase in food banks visits since 2019. There are 40,000 plus living in Burlington, and they vote disproportionate to other cohorts. If you think increasing property taxes is not having an effect on seniors, then you're simply not paying attention. And if you think this won't have an effect on re-electability in those who have supported these tax increases, think again. The answer is not retirement homes for seniors to retire in place. This is the language of political theater that certain disingenuous councillors has framed behind the perceived need for retirement homes without facing the uncomfortable reality that property taxes are having a disproportionate role in forcing these low fixed income seniors out of their actual homes. Robbing Peter to pay Paul is not sound municipal planning. So you don't care about seniors? Fine. How about the voice of the people of Burlington as represented through the City of Burlington Get Involved 2024 Budget Survey Review, run between August 1st, 2023 through to September 24th, 2023, which I'm holding here. I'm sure everyone has read it and understand it. Out of the 801 respondents to question 6, only 37% supported a property tax increase, while a 55% majority supported cuts to either maintain or reduce property taxes. Does this tell you the people of Burlington are interested in a property tax increase? Out of these same 801 respondents in question 7, in none of the 9 categories was an increase in service levels anywhere near the majority desire. What's worse, at the time this survey was taken, it was not a matter of public record the proposed budget increase contemplated by the City of Burlington. Would these results have changed had the respondents been made aware? I can only imagine the answer would have to be a resounding yes. If the City of Burlington is listening to the people, then why in the face of a 47% wanting to cut services to arts and culture has the proposed 2024 budget included an additional $159,000? The city does not appear interested in listening to the people of Burlington. Instead, it would confirm the profligate impecuniosity suspicion from my first paragraph is indeed the most likely culprit. So where can a cut to the budget come from? Well, COVID-19 changed the way we work, and a hybrid model of work is now the norm. Logic suggests a physical footprint is less necessary than before, but the major City Hall renovation project recently undertaken, which we're enjoying now, flies in the face of this logic. Overkill and unnecessary. There is now a new proposal to update the look of Civic Square. Is this really needed? What about winter maintenance for 20 new parks that have never been shoveled in the past? Is this really needed? Why? In the face of the survey results and dogged, persistent opposition to realty tax increases, why are needless projects being undertaken in areas where service reductions are supported, such as the aforementioned arts and culture, instead increasingly being funded? Is anyone actually listening to the constituents of Burlington? I appeal to your sense of common decency and the base idea of the democratic voice of the people being heard. Now, Councillors Kelvin Galbraith and Angela Bentivinia are fighting to reduce taxes in at least some ways because they actually listen to the people they represent. I'm proud to have Kelvin represent my ward. I would be deeply ashamed were my ward either 2, 4, or 5. Councillors Kearns, Stolte, and most glaringly Sharman's support for major tax increases under the guise of the projects underlying them being unfortunate but necessary is pandering and belies a contempt for the intelligence of the constituents.
So we're just going to be careful with our language and assumptions or personal attributes.
Understood. The suggestion that the voice of the people matters not, as we just don't get it, does violence to the notion of democratic representation. Mayor Meed-Ward, it is not too late to listen to the people and revise the 2024 budget to cut needless and unwanted services, to reduce the disproportionate impact these actions are having and will have on those most vulnerable in our community. Now, I presume you've all read the 2024 budget survey results, and I presume you have read and are aware of the #1 issue by far raised by 711 respondents when asked what is the most important issue facing your community. That is the one issue you feel should receive the greatest attention from your city council and should be in priority to the 2024 budget. Out of all of the responses, the #1 response by a long shot, 34% in fact, was to either reduce property taxes, reduce wasteful spending, or control costs. 241 out of 711 comments revolved around that. Exactly the same question was asked in question 10. Not a different question, but the same response. In fact, even more stronger than that. And 182 out of 520 respondents indicated either a reduction in property taxes or reducing wasteful spending or controlling costs was necessary. Now, I'm not naive. I realize that my words will not result in any changes to this year's budget. And it will pass, very likely lightly amended, if at all. We're in an off-election year, and our last municipal election was a little over a year ago now. The next one isn't due for another 3 years, and you are likely hoping, cynically, but probably not incorrectly, that the memory of this year's and last year's property tax hikes will become a distant memory by then. The thing is, the fiscal mismanagement that has led us to this point is not something that can easily be cured in 3 years' time. And I will be here next year, the year after that, and the year after that. This is my first appearance before council, any council anywhere, frankly, but I believe it will not be my last. Going to leave it with a parting thought. Roman consuls would, during a triumph through Rome following a great victory in the field, traditionally have a slave in the chariot accompany them holding a laurel wreath above the consul's head. But the slave had a second job. As the chariot drove through the streets, he would whisper into the consul's ear, "Look behind you. Remember, you are a man. Remember, you are accountable. And while your victory may be fresh in mind, unless bold decisions are made and swift action is taken, you risk a reckoning. Maybe not now, maybe not next year, but 2026 may come sooner than you think." I conclude.